Welcome to Generations, a show which helps people 50 and better lead happy, healthy, and productive lives. Hosted today by Nadia Giordana, and here's Nadia.
Welcome to the show. I'm Nadia Giordana. Co-hosting with me today, Ellie Freed. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
And Diane Winkler. Hi, Diane.
I'm excited about everything I'll learn today.
We've got Karen Risette.
Hi, Nadia. It's really nice to be here, and I'm eager to learn more, too.
I'm happy to have you here, too, today.
Thank you.
And we've got Dr. Thomas von Sternberg.
Good afternoon.
Hello. And our subject matter today, if you could start us off with some comments and background information, we're going to be talking about chronic medical conditions, non-life-threatening, that affect persons over 60.
Well, thank you. I think it's an important general topic to talk about with friends and with family. What I describe it as, what are successful techniques to age successfully? How do we navigate some of the expected medical problems that occur, but also how do we navigate some of the normal changes that go along with aging? Mm-hmm. As a geriatric physician, the patients that I deal with typically have come up with some of their own solutions on what's working for them, but they also have lots of questions about what more they can do. I also think it's important to understand and expect that as we get older, in addition to the normal changes that occur with aging that we all experience, we will be burdened with more chronic illness, as you mentioned. The longer we live, the greater the chance is of acquiring another illness, another condition that is not a simple short-term condition, but something that will remain with us. So I think balancing those two issues, successful aging, what are the things that you can do to optimize your own day-to-day activities, and as well, how to safely manage medical conditions that occur. And that really also leads me to be making the recommendation that those two things together can also be really helped by a good relationship with your primary care doctor. Because especially now with all the information that's available, you really need to have someone be a sounding board and someone to help clarify what you should pay attention to and what you shouldn't pay attention to. So I think in that respect, think of it as a partner as you're doing the things and making the choices that you're making to try and do things right. But most of us will need someone else to help with that because there simply is too many sources of information and too many opinions, both on the web, on television, in our family, in our social environments. So I think it's helpful to have someone else to help give an opinion. I think the most important aspect of successful aging, I think fundamentally, and what I find is if I'm going to categorize someone who's managing well versus not managing well, the most important characteristic is to have an attitude that you're going to be as optimistic as you can be, to have a positive attitude when possible, despite whatever challenges you're faced with, either with your own illnesses or the other life changes that occur to us and our families as time goes on. Individuals with a positive attitude, my experiences, seem to manage better than individuals who are more negative or pessimistic.
I think that's right, and what you don't want to do, correct me if you have a different opinion, what you don't want to do is panic when something crops up, something new crops up. Oh no, I've got this now, it's going to get worse. What I tend to do myself, and I don't have anything overly serious, but things that I have to deal with, I think to myself, it's not that bad, it's manageable, and you know, sometimes I think maybe it will go away, maybe it won't, but it's manageable, and other people have worse things, and I think I can deal with this.
That's a wonderful attitude.
It is.
Absolutely.
It works.
I was having some problems a couple years ago, and I went into my prime doctor, and she said, I'm going to send you to a specialist who is a kidney specialist. And I said, oh, okay. I don't have any signs that I know of. And they said, well, we think you have. So I went to Dr. Chai, and he is a specialist, and he said to me, there's no reason for this to be up to where you're almost ready to have, what do you have to have when you have kidney trouble?
Dialysis.
Dialysis. And I really didn't know much about dialysis, so I thought, well, I don't really like the idea of having that. So as time went on, the next 6 months, he had me come back, and he said, well, what's going on? I said, well, I'm asking, how can I help myself? How? And he sat down with me and said, do what you think would be best. I said, I want to go to a dietitian. And he said, that's a good idea. You can go to a dietitian. Well, when my numbers were up to 3.5, which is serious, and when I went on the diet that this dietitian gave me, which is kind of ridiculous because I can't have any chocolate, and the next couple of times I was there, it's down to 1. I am holding that perfectly. And now he said, I'll see you in 6-7 months.
Doesn't that give you the incentive to
yes.
stay on the program?
Oh,
We're back to
yes.
diet and exercise as far as
right.
good general health, sure.
But I can't believe it. I just was wonderful, and I really kind of like what I'm eating.
Oh, that's good.
So there's where an example of helping yourself, and I just think it's wonderful, and I'm in love with him anyway. Just a nice doctor.
Yeah.
I think that does make good sense.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, I think I kind of started this idea of having someone come and talk to us about aging. I have suffered from insomnia for many years, and it gives you all kinds of opportunities to read and all kinds of things. And my doc has told me, you know, I could have a sleep aid. What do you call them? Medication to help you sleep. And I tried 2 different things, and I don't like what they do to me. So I have changed some things that I do. I know if I have some stress about anything, I'm going to have a problem getting to sleep.
Sure.
But often I fall asleep and wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep. I get up a lot during the night anyway, so that's kind of doesn't help the situation much. But if I just do some relaxing things and not worry about that, I seem to have, you know, I'll have a couple of nights when I don't sleep, and then a couple of nights when I do. So, and I'm happy to get the reading done.
The reading part is nice, but if you've got something to do the next day, the insomnia can rise up, and then you begin to fear it, because it happens to me too.
Yeah.
You begin to fear you're not going to go to sleep. I'm going to be shot tomorrow. That's a tough one to rise above.
Yeah.
But
One of the things to be aware of as we age is that the length of time that you'll have deeper sleep shortens. And so, to some degree, one of the things you should be more aware of is you should have a changed expectation of what a good night's sleep is. We walk into this experience saying, well, 8 or 9 hours is what I hear is most important, and therefore, without that, I'm not getting enough sleep. And what we do find when we're in our 70s and 80s and 90s, 2 things occur. One is, oftentimes people will take shorter naps during the day. But number 2 is that the kind of total length of deep sleep that your body needs, and that also that your brain can sustain, lessens over time. So I think the nervousness about I need to have enough sleep, I need my full number of hours, varies as we get older. I really resonate with the idea of if I can do things that aren't related to pills or medications to make me fall asleep, far safer. I would give you my opinion that there really isn't a lot of safe medications for older folks when it comes to sleep that don't have a side effect profile that, again, can also affect how you're feeling the next day. Many sleeping pills increase the risks of falls and confusion. and some other things like constipation and tiredness for the next day or so. I would point out that most of the over-the-counter sleep aids in the drugstore that are without a prescription typically have a variation of Benadryl in them.
I've heard that.
And Benadryl will help anybody fall asleep. It will stay in your body for a few days, and it will definitely cause those kinds of things that I've talked about. So the struggle is, if I take a Benadryl, it really works. But I think the struggle is then you may not benefit from the side effects. The other thing we talk about with sleep is sleep hygiene. And it's just a term that's used about the activities around going to sleep, and then the activities that one should do if you are awakened and are still needing to get back to sleep. And the hygiene things we talk about are that, number one, television and screen activity before bed is a disruptive force for sleep. And many of us watch TV until we fall asleep, and then we go to bed and try to continue that sleep. And your brain has been stimulated in a different way. Different parts of the brain are stimulated. And so that's not going to lead to a quality sleep. The second thing to pay attention to is that getting into a pattern, same activities you do before going to bed, very much like your cat or your dog, as they circle the pillow or as they pad before they lay down, our brain is used to then, once I see the toothbrush come out, once I see the light go off and I pad my pillow, we're no different. That helps induce sleep. So consistency, very important. Many of us wake up in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom, or we're lighter sleepers than we used to be. Basic kind of a recommendation is that after 5 or 10 minutes, if you are not back asleep, out of bed.
Yeah.
Really?
You're up,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
walk around the
get up.
house,
Okay.
perhaps get a small sip of water, but not a lot. And that the idea of then start that same pattern again. Go back to bed, pad the pillow, put the blankets over, and then again, your brain will then be more conducive to falling asleep. And then the struggle of, boy, if I take a 2 o'clock in the afternoon nap, will that keep me from having a good night's sleep? The answer is one nap, probably not, but paying attention to how much you're sleeping during the day can be important. Most of us eat our evening meal between 5 and 7 o'clock, and a heavy meal right before you go to bed, also not helpful for sleep. And then the most important thing to help induce sleep is to have as much physical activity during the daytime as you can. And that physical activity not only helps sleep, but if you were going to then say, in addition to the attitude we talked about, what are other successful aging techniques? A priority and an emphasis to exercise at some level that you can tolerate, and paying attention to the length of time you're doing it, and trying to have that exercise be done and during the day at a time when it's not close to bedtime, because exercise before going to bed, again, will have a stimulating effect. So I think those are kind of important things to remember. Many of the medications that we take for other conditions can sometimes affect sleep. Many medications can make us tired. That can sometimes promote more napping. Checking with your doctor again about, are anything on the list of my medicines potentially causing me to be tired? Fair question, important question. And so I think that's an important thing to be aware of, and that the sensitivity we have to medicines as we age just simply gets bigger and bigger. And so when we look at what are the differences between the 30-year-old and the 70 or 80-year-old, tolerance to medications, very, very common. And tolerance to kind of kidney function as well. As we age, our kidneys naturally slow down. And that slowing is within expected norms. But beyond that, then it can slow down even more. Attention to fluid intake and diet and avoidance of certain medications can be very helpful. And some instances, your physician will want you to be taking a medication for kidney protection. So sometimes you'll get messages in both ways. But again, from a standpoint of kidney function, that's something that you really want to have good partnership with your doctor.
I do.
What about hearing loss as it progresses and struggling with the decision or the idea of wearing hearing aids? Now, I went through that with my parents, and I'm almost at a point where I say, I know that I have issues with my hearing, but I don't want that struggle going on of the wrong. They went through different units, different, I call them machines, but they've tried several different things, and it didn't seem to me that any of it ever really worked very well. What do people do?
Well, people make decisions for lots of different reasons. Part of the whole process of how important is the hearing and the hearing loss is the most essential first point of discussion. You lose hearing over time with aging in the high frequencies, and the life exposure to noise will either have that be more or less. And so individuals in the construction trades and in the activities where they were exposed to high noises, airport work or machinery, and I think for your children's generation and my generation, exposure to loud music can be definitely a risk. That will accelerate the normal hearing loss that occurs as we age. The organ in the ear called the cochlea simply loses its number of sensors for receptive of the sound waves, and so when that loss crosses a threshold that goes below what in many ways the normal speaking volumes are, that's when it starts to impact the quality of your life. People also struggle not just with conversational hearing, but public forum hearings. I find many individuals struggle with church, movies, those kinds of activities. So that typically is a different challenge because hearing aids right now are extremely effective and more effective perhaps than when you were working with your parents in regards to their ability to have quality reproduction. But in public forums with background noise and other acoustic challenges, the most successful approach is that does the building, does the church, does the auditorium have a device that you can wear that is linked to the speaker or the screen, and that you wear them as a headphone. That will be your best bet. Striving to find the right hearing aid that will allow you to have conversational hearing and public space hearing will be an exercise in frustration.
It will be. Do you know?
Most hearing aids are right now, and this is the breathtaking part, average price of $2,000 to $5,000, not paid for by Medicare.
Paid for by the VA.
But paid for by our friends in the VA. And so, and again, some insurance companies perhaps would have that. So I think being aware of that is important.
That's good.
The size of the device, the difficulty of how to manipulate it, change the batteries, how long the batteries last. All those are really a personal choice to make. My recommendation to my patients is that if your hearing loss is affecting your ability to successfully have a day of communication with people you care about and things you want to do, get a hearing aid.
Right,
And that's pretty much a bright line.
It is.
I've had my hearing aids for 10 years, the same ones. So I'm getting close to the time of replacing, but they're wonderful.
But you have been happy.
Yes, I have.
Good.
Very happy.
Well, my husband tells people, or told people, the only time I have anything important to tell him is when I have my head in the refrigerator. And you know, he could be right. He could have been right.
It's a very interesting point. Most of the time, people who have lived together for years are used to having conversations in different rooms and are used to not addressing each other clearly. I would suggest that you would consider to be totally appropriate to be a successfully aging individual to simply ask a person to face you when they're talking, and that your job as well is to reciprocate and not assume that you will be heard if you're moving and doing other things while you're talking. But I think couples especially get into certain habits of communication, and then there typically will be a confrontation about, well, I've got hearing loss. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. And so I think the idea is there's probably some truth in the middle somewhere. Your doctor's office can easily do a screening hearing test where you put a pair of headphones on and get some signal testing. And then an audiologist can give you very good, helpful, technical advice about the nature of your hearing loss and choices. I think we're right now also being exposed to opportunities to purchase hearing aids on the web, purchase them from walk-in stores with a variety of technological choices. I can't speak to the quality of those, but I do think it's important that you would at least be assessed by a neutral party who may not have a strong incentive to sell you something sooner versus later. That can be a challenge for any purchase, but when it comes to healthcare and the price of many hearing aids, being a bit cautious about that and not being swept into a marketing challenge because of how important it is to make the right choice. My last comment about hearing aids would be a hearing aid that is costing about $500 or $600. I wish that I could guarantee that was going to be well worth it. May not be. Doesn't mean you can't try it. Medicare has a rule about hearing aids in that you are able to have a guarantee of full refund when you've purchased a hearing aid if it's not working for you.
That's good to know.
No matter where you go, if the individual pulls back a bit when you talk about do you follow what Medicare rules are, that might speak to whether or not it's a reliable source or not.
I was listening to you and what you were saying about,
Well, at least somebody was.
well, in particular, the part about monitoring certain aspects of what you're doing in terms of exercise and so on. And I recently got something that's kind of interesting. It's a Fitbit.
I don't have one yet.
And I've just gotten it recently, and now I'm paying attention to the number of steps that I walk every day. And this says now 483. Well, I have it set, thanks to my daughter's help with the computer, I have it set for 5,000 steps as my goal for the day. And so as it gets close to that, I know I've got to get up, out the door, go walking. And then when I do, it rewards me, and it goes off and goes.
Oh,
and
you get a reward. That's nice. It's pretty
right.
cool.
And it also, and I don't know how this works, I'll tell you. It mystifies me, but it tells me about going upstairs and downstairs, how many times a day. It tells me my heart rate, and it tells me the number of hours of sleep. And so I can monitor those things.
Do you wear it at night too then?
I do.
Okay.
So the one question I had for you, because I'm not knowledgeable about understanding my heart rate score, if I'm just sitting here casually, like when we came in, I think it was 70. So, and then if I really vigorously walk, which I know I'm supposed to do when I walk, kind of at least periodically, I can get it up. So that's aerobic exercise, is it not?
Yes.
Okay. And so is the idea that you just want to make sure that during the day and during your walk and so on, that you get a little bit more out of it that way?
I think so. I think that whatever information you're comfortable with to help guide you to be active or to eat the right food or to do activities that are going to help, kind of wants to meet you where you're at. The technical gift of the Fitbit is it is a significant amount of information delivered on a regular basis. And I think for some people that resonates really well, and for others it's a bit too much information. The issue of number of steps is really interesting because there's been good research about literally, if an individual walks a certain number of steps, there has been shown to be good heart protection and just good benefit. And the idea of having a destination or having a distance or a number, for some people, very valuable. For others, it's not steps, perhaps it's time. And for others, it's, I don't want that information, I just want to be able to do the things I want to do. I think the most important thing around this idea of exercise is that no matter how we monitor it, that the priority for your day is, in addition to being socially active and involved with your family and friends, quantifying in some way that I'm going out of my way to specifically do exercise, because you can be busy all day long at meetings and shopping and lunch and working with grandchildren, and at the end of the day did not have that prolonged aerobic activity. And so making sure that that's a priority, if possible, every day, if not every day, every other day. But that, I think, is really a helpful piece, because not only has exercise been shown to help with sleep, as we talk about, be protective for the heart, but exercise is one of the most important ways to help maintain better energy, better memory and concentration. And that, I think, sometimes is surprising to people, that the more physically active you are, the more alert and perhaps your memory will be a little bit more sharp. Exercise helps pretty much everything.
I do stretching exercises every day of my life, in the morning, in bed. And I do these for maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes every single day, which makes sure when I get out of bed, I don't have to dangle my feet, which is we used to do, but it helps me, attitude, everything. And sometimes I complete them, sometimes if the phone rings, I don't. But it is good for me. And then I walk a mile every day, and it was when my husband was alive, I started that. So I took him walking with me, and he would have his walker, and I like it so much. So you know, if the weather's bad, I don't go.
You made it a priority.
I did.
And I think that's what's really important. And we've run out of time. We could have gone on for another couple of hours here talking about, I had some questions about aches and pains and all kinds of things we could have talked about. Thank you, everyone, for being with us and contributing to this conversation. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Generations.